Hey everybody, welcome back to Goody and Johnny Mo at the Movies. We are here for episode 19. We're doing a new review for Toy Story 4. Can't believe they did a Toy Story 4, but they did it. We saw it, and we are here to review it. First off, we're just doing a quick little beer
I'm
shout out.
still drinking my Harp Lager.
And I switched over to a Blue Point Toasted Lager for the rest of the evening. Thank you. So it's our third review of the night. We saved it, I think, probably the best for last.
They could be. So incidentally,
We didn't see this together.
We didn't see this together.
We saw this.
You
we saw
saw
this
it
I saw
yesterday?
it yesterday with my kids and my family.
I wound up seeing it today with my three grandkids, Chris's three nieces and nephews. So I took them to see it because they wanted to see it. Oddly enough, the previews that I saw for this movie didn't really do much for me. I had really not much intention of seeing this film theatrically.
I saw two trailers. The first two trailers. It was a little bit of a teaser, and then the first full trailer for this film a few months back. And I think I'm in agreement with you. I think I saw this, and I actually was worried because Toy Story 3. Toy Story, I want to say right now, is one, it's my favorite Pixar franchise. The first Toy Story is still my favorite Pixar film, and Toy Story is one of my favorite Disney films of all time. I love Tom Hanks. I love Tim Allen. Their voices together to me are fantastic. You believe the friendship of Woody and Buzz.
When did the first Toy Story come out?
Oh God, that one, I want to say that was 95. 95 or 96 was the first Pixar film.
See, for me, oddly enough, I was never a huge fan of the Toy Story films. I thought they were very good, but they never really connected with me. In 1995 and up, I was older. So like when Pixar came out, as much as I, respect Pixar movies, I wasn't like hooked in with them. If I had to rank the first three Toy Story movies in terms of my enjoyment, I don't even know where they all fell. Like I enjoyed Toy Story, but I didn't love it. I enjoyed Toy Story 2, but I didn't love it. And I enjoyed Toy Story 3, but I didn't love it. I think I might put number 2 first, then number 1, then number 3. But again, it was never like, oh my God, I love Toy Story. Because I didn't, not to say I didn't grow up with it, it just, for whatever reason, when Pixar started, it just was okay with me. I think I enjoyed the true animated film.
Well, I think the animation, I think, is what really stood out to me at that time.
And you were younger, 95.
Yeah, 95. If it was 95 when it came out, then I was 14. I didn't see this movie in the theater. The only Toy Story I saw in the theater was Toy Story 3. And that's because we went with my nephews and my niece.
And how long ago was that?
I want to say that was 2008.
It was like 10 years ago.
It was either 2008 or 2009.
Yeah, I mean, it was 10 years ago.
Right.
And it's really funny. It doesn't seem that long.
No,
but
it doesn't. But there was a long break between Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3. Because I think Toy Story 2 came out in the late 90s. Like, that came out in 98 or 99.
Well, yeah, so oddly enough, and I think we might have mentioned this before, Toy Story 2 was originally supposed to be direct-to-video.
Yes.
And they decided, this is actually a really good movie. We should release this.
Right, and this was still very early on at Pixar.
Yeah,
because Pixar had at that point only done a couple of films.
Right, and they did and almost every single movie, almost every single Disney movie coming out from Disney at that time, animated films, almost all of them had direct-to-video sequels.
The sequels were.
I mean, there was direct-to-video sequels. I think of Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin.
Lion King.
Almost
Lion
all
King
of them.
too.
And that was okay. Like whatever. Like they were just they weren't they were just throwing these movies out because they could. They were throwing them out on video. And then I guess when they did Toy Story 2, somebody just must have said, "This is a really good movie. Let's release this theatrically." And it wound up making a lot of money.
Yeah, no, Toy Story 2 did very well.
And some people consider Toy Story 2 to be better than Toy Story 1. To me, this falls along the lines of Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. Toy Story is one of the greatest animated films of all time. It's the movie that launched Pixar. It's an iconic story. It's the first of its kind. It's the trailblazer.
Yeah.
Toy Story 2 is probably a better movie, but it's not the trailblazer that Toy Story was. You can make the same argument with Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Star Wars is by far the greater film, but Empire Strikes Back is better.
It just has the better. It has the better.
Empire
story.
Strikes Back is a perfect film. It just it doesn't have the impact that Star Wars did, because
Right.
Star Wars broke new ground.
Yep.
So I mean, I give Pixar all the respect in the world, just as there hasn't been much that they've put out that I really enjoyed. I'll be honest with you, I think my most enjoyable Pixar film is Inside Out.
That was a good film.
And that
That's really
to me was
enjoyable.
very different. It was a very different type of film. It was kind of bold. That movie I enjoyed, and like Incredibles. I actually enjoyed
love-
Incredibles too, better than the first Incredibles.
I
think
love
because
The Incredibles. I think
Yeah.
that both films, both 1 and 2, I thought were actually very, very good.
is Despicable Me Pixar?
No.
I didn't think so.
Nope.
Minions are not Pixar.
Nope.
Okay. So Toy Story 4.
They're, I want to say Universal? They're Illumination, which I think is is Universal's version.
So I went into Toy Story 4 with really not meant much high hopes at all. And in the previews, they introduced the character of Forky,
Yes.
which to me looked absolutely
Ridiculous.
ridiculous. I was like,
It got me nervous because I'm like, is this really the
I'm
character
like,
that they're
what the
introducing?
I literally like, what the hell is
Well, because
going on?
each film has introduced a new character.
Yeah, this movie,
Each of the
this movie looks
Toy,
stupid.
Toy Story 2 had Jessie and Bullseye. Toy Story 3, you had Lotso the bear, and then all the characters from Bonnie's group, like all of her toys that she had, that we get introduced to. So all of a sudden we're seeing Forky come in, and you're like,
And
what
I'll
is
be
this?
honest with you. What every time I saw Forky, it reminded me of Towelie from South Park. If you've ever watched South Park, they had an episode where they introduced this character called Towelie, and he was a towel, and it's like it's like a regular, and he was basically, I think, lame on purpose. He was like the lamest character on ever, and they even joked about it in the show at the end, not for nothing, this is the lamest character ever on this show. And he was like this little bath towel, Towelie, and it was stupid. And I'm sitting there going I'm like, this is what Forky is. He's a fork, and or a spork. And I'm like, it just seems so contrived. And I'm like, previews did not reel me in at all. So I can tell you though, I did enjoy the movie immensely.
Yeah, no, I thought this movie did a really good job. And like I was saying before when we started the review, Toy Story 3 to me ended perfectly for this franchise. You have a kid who grows up. I mean, to me, this is real. A kid grows up. He doesn't play with these types of toys anymore. So what's he going to do with them? They're either going to go up into the attic, or they're going to get donated somewhere to where other kids can play with them. And what does Andy do at the end of Toy Story 3? He ends up taking all of the toys personally over, and he gets to play with them one last time as he hands them over to Bonnie, to this young girl, and he gives her all the toys. And it was just such a perfect ending to this franchise. And you really thought that was going to be it. And so when we kept hearing about this Toy Story 4, I'm like, how are they going to do this? What could they possibly do and come up with a story that would actually enhance that series? Because if you're not going to enhance the series, if you're not going to take it a step further, then don't do it. Don't ruin what's been done. Because I feel like at that point you're going to ruin the legacy, and then it's going to be somewhat tainted. Don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, and it was funny too. I didn't read the review in Newsday, but I saw that Newsday gave it 4 stars, and I was like, how is that even possible? I'm like, how is that even
Now,
possible?
for
Like,
those of you
no,
that don't know this,
there's no way.
Newsday is the paper for Long Island,
Long Island
here in New
newspaper.
York.
And I tend to disagree with a lot of their ratings. Sometimes I think they give a much higher ratings to movies than they deserve, and then sometimes I think they give much lower ratings to movies I think should be so. So they're
That's why reviews are very subjective.
very
everybody.
subjective. But I was like, I'm like, there is no way this movie is 4 stars. So I went in there, with that in my head as well.
Yeah.
But and basically, the grandkids wanted to see this movie, so I was like, sure, I'll go take it. I had them for the day. I was like, let's go, boom. And I'm telling you, I was thoroughly surprised. I absolutely loved it. I think it's my favorite Toy Story movie. It might be my favorite Pixar movie. And I walked out of there going, SOB. I'm like, that's at least a 3.5 star movie. It's a solid, at the very least, it is a solid 3.5 star movie. And if I watch it again, I might have to go to 4.
Wow,
I mean,
that's
it was-
big.
I was
For you to say that?
Yeah, I was
That's
I was
big.
very, very impressed with that film. And I think what it did was, for the franchise, is that the toys grew up.
Yes, and I think that was the point of the story.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that was very different from the other movies. These were toys that have either become bitter, or they've become, they're more worldly. They get life better.
Now.
Yeah, now.
Now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After,
No, I think
after the experience that they've had, they're wiser.
I think the goal for them when they were
They're less
in
starry-eyed.
the previous films is to literally be what's been kind of like the tagline is, be there for your kid. What he says all the time is like, we're there when Andy needs us. And they start to, and by the time you get to the third film, they realize that they've kind of, Andy's grown past them and they're kind of left in the dust until they meet Bonnie, and now all of a sudden they have a new purpose. And it seems that in this film, some of these toys start to create their own purpose.
Yeah.
Pretty much, right? And not all of them, but Woody in particular, of course, because he's the main role. And we get Bo Peep back, which was so cool.
Bo Peep like went out on her own.
And the coolest thing about Bo Peep is that she had such a small role, I think, in 1 and 2, or I didn't think it was that huge. But then in the third film, she wasn't in it at all, and she gets mentioned that some of the toys that they've lost over time, and that Bo Peep was one of them. But this film, she has such a big role,
and she's so like non-naive toy.
Oh, absolutely!
Like
she
she's
gets it. She gets what the real world is like.
Yeah.
And she tries to explain it to Woody, and Woody's like, "What do you mean? Like, it's like, how could you be a like?" It was almost like, "Ooh, how could you be a lost toy?" Like he wanted like no part of that at all. He just wanted to get back to Bonnie and serve her. And Bo Peep knew it, because she was like, "What are you going back for? Like to serve the girl? Like she doesn't want you anymore. So what are you gonna do?"
Yeah. It was really it was to me, it was like, it was a different spin. It was more of I felt like it was a Toy Story movie, but it was slightly geared more for adults.
Yeah.
Because I think adults would have been able to understand and process.
I think you relate.
Even the emotions being thrown around, because it was not like a simple kid movie where this everything's happy and all that. It was like there was a lot of conflicting emotional statements and emotional characters and storylines where like people were trying to come to terms and come at odds with where they're going in their life.
Yeah.
It was really,
this movie definitely
thought provoking
for adults, and then I mean, kids are going to be sucked into the animation. They're going to be sucked into the toys, and some of that stuff is going to go over their head. But I think for the adult aspect, and I think with all the Toy Story movies, I feel like they've done somewhat of a decent job. But I think this one in particular really pushed the envelope. Was the adult aspect for the adults going to the film, and what they could take away and appreciate this. And the first two films, I was much younger, so I saw the films and loved what they brought to the table. But the last two films definitely pull at the heartstrings a little bit more, as you start to see Andy moving on and then giving something up. And in this movie here, there's so much transition for some of these characters that it really pulls at your heartstrings a little bit.
Yeah, and you know what? I think they got away from like the one-liner jokes. Like they did so much of that.
The first two especially.
That's like they had like all the toy situations, and they had all the different Toy Story characters, and all like doing their jokes and stuff. To fill in the space, which is I think a lot of what Disney does. If you're gonna do a movie about toys, you gotta get all those toy lines in.
Yes.
So now we're at Toy Story 4, and I felt like they didn't like do that nearly as much, and they were more along the storylines, and they kept more along the lines of the main characters. Whereas for the most part, almost all the other toys were either stuck in the roof or stuck back in the RV.
Yeah.
You
don't see them that much in this film.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like Toy Story 3, like you see like these guys are all over the place because they're in a daycare. So
yeah,
they're pretty much out in the open. But in this film, like it's really focused on Woody and Bo Peep and what was that doll's name?
Spoonie.
Well, Forky, but not Forky.
And,
but what was the one that was in the antique store?
Gabby.
Gabby.
Yeah. And I like that. Like they almost started Gabby out to be like just a typical villain, but it wasn't. It was a very atypical.
When they show this trailers of this film, you're almost like you don't know who's the villain, and it's almost there was a hint. I remember hearing something on one website that I was looking up. Was Bo Peep going to be the villain in the movie?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad they didn't do that.
No,
I'm so glad that wasn't the case. But almost at the end of the day, like Gabby is perceived as the villain at first.
Because, and mainly because she's got this like squad of goons.
Yeah.
That are actually like pretty scary.
They are, and they're almost like Howdy Doody dolls.
Or like they look like the dolls from
like a ventriloquist
from Magic, which is like a ventriloquist type doll. Yeah. They're a little scary looking. It's like she's almost got this like little private army. But like like when you see what her motivations are, it's like she's just another imperfect person trying to make the best of a situation.
Yeah. And there's such
you actually become very sympathetic towards her character.
Oh, absolutely.
You feel bad for her.
Especially towards the end of the movie when things really start to come to light, and all this. So this doll basically, she's been defective since she came out of the box. Her inner voice box, the mechanical voice box, does not work.
That kids can hear.
Right.
So like you pull
the
the
string.
string.
Pull the string like Woody's works great, hers doesn't, and she sees that Woody has one and that it works fantastic. So she starts to like almost deceive the plan to find out a way to take his, to change it over so that a kid will take her and love her.
Yeah,
because that's all she wants.
She has never been somebody's doll.
No, because she was defective right away. As soon as she came out of the box, so she's never had a child.
And she has her eyes on this girl who is like probably the granddaughter of the person who owns the antique store. And when she finally gets her voice box, and the granddaughter finds the doll, it's almost like a magic moment.
And the music, I don't know who scored the sound, but the music was so perfect because it just builds and builds to this moment, and then the girl just takes the doll and throws her in. It
is emotionally wrenching. I mean, this movie really takes you through the emotions of a standard, I think, adult dramatic film.
Yeah.
It is a very mature animated film.
You just think about somebody wanting to be loved, like like you almost look at these toys as young as like young characters almost in a sense, and you're like, can you imagine it like a child wanting to be loved and just being tossed aside?
Yeah.
And that's and all they're looking for is love of from somebody else, and I think the movie does an amazing job of putting you in that situation and trying to make you feel that way, because at the end, like, you really start to feel for Gabby, where 30 minutes beforehand you're like, no, you can't hurt Woody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, you can't do that. Like, why are you holding Forky hostage? Like,
Yeah.
don't do that. So you like she's almost set up in the beginning as the villain, but she takes those extraordinary steps because of how much she really wants to be loved.
Right.
And then Woody, being Woody, can't leave her behind. So he does the noble thing and says, I know my little girl, my girl will probably want you, and they try to take her along, and then they get into another situation,
and she winds up seeing a girl who's lost and winds up capitalizing on that situation. Like, she sees that, wow, maybe I can help this girl,
right,
and maybe find a home for myself as well, and she does. And it's like, it was really, and it was really odd, because I'm watching this movie and I'm being pulled in, and I'm going through the ride, and I'm going through the emotional journey. And at some point, like either halfway or 3/4 through the film, I'm going, oh my God, this is a really, really good movie. It is so not what I expected.
Yeah.
And not for nothing, I like the character of Spoonie.
Well, Forky.
Oh,
yeah,
Forky.
Forky.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Forky, Spoonie.
Forky the entire time just thinks he's trash.
Yeah, because he's made of trash.
He's made of trash.
And that is absolutely hysterical.
And his mindset is that he should be in the garbage.
Yeah.
So he constantly keeps throwing himself in the garbage, and Woody's like, no, like, you are what made Bonnie happy. Like, you can't go in, like, nothing can happen to you. Like, Woody becomes slightly obsessed, and all the other toys are like, no, she'll get over it, she'll be fine. And Woody's like, no, she won't. Like, this is what made her happy in school.
Yeah.
So, Woody really forms a bond with Forky, and then tries to get Forky to even understand what it's like to be a toy, and the fact that, Bonnie made you and that she cares about you. And it takes him a while to really get him to come around.
Mm-hmm.
But Forky's doing everything in his power to just be literally a lost thing, or just thrown out into the garbage. And he does everything he possibly can. He even throws himself out of the RV window. And that's where the adventure really begins.
And I think the running joke when they're trying to find Bo Peep in the antique store, and Woody keeps yelling out Bo's name, and Forky just keeps, and at various points in the film he keeps going Bo, like he just different variations on the word Bo, and it's actually really funny. I think this film was very distinctive and unique, and took some bold direction. It was not playing the safe story. It told a very distinctive and unique story, and embraced it, and went full speed ahead.
I think they really pushed the envelope with this. They took I think a big shot with a big franchise, and I mean, let's keep that in mind. Like, this, if they didn't get this right, this could have been a real heartbreaker for a lot of fans of this franchise.
I think it was a very bold move, because I guarantee you there were people at Disney going like, wait a second, this is not what Toy Story 4 should be.
Right.
It should be...
Or should we even have a Toy Story 4? I bet you there were some execs that were like, didn't we end this series? I thought Toy Story 3 was it. But I have to say, like,
this is what you're going to do with it? Like, are you crazy?
And the fact is, like, they had such subtle, great callbacks to the other 3 films. Mm-hmm. They even, and I was telling John this morning, is that they even found a way to weave in some of the TV specials that came about.
Yeah, which I didn't even know existed. Like, I never saw them.
I mean, the Combat Carl.
He's telling me about the Christmas special and the Halloween special. I'm like, what are you talking
the whole
about?
Halloween special with the Combat Carl, like, that was fantastic, getting that in there. And then even there's a point in the school where Woody takes this lunchbox he uses to hide behind, and he carries it around, and it's these dinosaurs that was from this other special that they had on. And I'm like, that was just brilliant to, like, go back and at least have some type of calling to those characters that were in those TV specials. But I I loved this film. I really did. I love the characters. The ending to me is such a heartbreaker because Woody has a decision to make.
Yeah.
Because Bo's not coming back. Bo's staying out in the world. She's
gonna join the.
She's gonna
almost like saying join the circus.
Yeah.
Join the carnival.
Yeah, she's gonna stay with the carnival. That's where
Just go see the world.
She's free, so she's happy there. And Woody, all he wants to do is he wants to get back to Bonnie, and at some point he comes to this realization. He hesitates and doesn't know what to do, and then Buzz tells him, "It's okay, you can go." And that's when Woody makes his decision.
Yeah, no, she'll be okay with. He says she'll be okay without you.
She'll be okay without you.
And at first you think he's talking about Bo.
Yes.
Not. What I was saying was, this is actually something that happened funny in the movie. So we've probably mentioned this before, but like I will never leave a movie until the credits are over.
Yes.
And the grandkids know that as well. So we're sitting in the movie theater. Oh, and this is also another pet peeve of mine with movies. We were sitting in the movie theater, and there were at least 2 or 3 people in front of us, in the row in front of us, that had their cell phones on, and it was really, really annoying. One guy even got yelled at by somebody. Like, you know, he had apparently his phone had a light on it. It was like shining out.
I am perfectly fine if someone's going to step up and say, turn that off.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that interruption because that's better than the person leaving the phone on the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, that's this guy in front of me. He kept going to his phone. He didn't have it on all the time, but he kept going to his phone. He's there with his wife and his kid. Daughter's in the middle, wife's on the other side. And he's just sitting there, very lackadaisically, checking his messages, sending some messages. He goes, he got some interesting message at some point. He had to hand it over to his wife so his wife could take a look at it. And I'm sitting there going like, are you kidding me? It drives me insane.
These movies are about an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 40 minutes. You can go without your cell phone.
You're not a doctor on call. You're just, everybody just likes to be so connected. They couldn't possibly get anything any minute later than it occurs. It's like, you know what? Turn your phone off.
You're there to enjoy the film with your wife and your kid.
Enjoy the
film.
It's just crazy.
No, I agree.
So back to the credits thing. The kids already know that we're not going anywhere. So we're talking, 14-year-old to 11-year-olds,
yes.
10-year-olds. They're sitting there. They know we're not going anywhere. The movie has at least 3 Easter egg scenes at relatively close to the beginning of the credits.
Right.
And even while the first Easter egg scene is going on, people are walking up, getting up, leaving, but then they're like stopping to watch, and they get to the second one, people are still leaving. They get to the third one, most of the theater is out by now, and then there's only a couple people left, and it was a very actually long credit scene, and we were sitting there, we're reading them, we're watching them, enjoying them, we're listening to the music, and then there's a point literally where I think we might be the only 4 people in the theater, maybe 2 people waiting in the wings, and at some point, one of them's going, can we go? I'm like, no, we can't go. And they're like, well, can I meet you in the lobby? I'm like, no, nobody is leaving. We're all going out together. When the movie's over, we'll leave. So the lady sweeping up, people were already starting to sweep up. And at one point, one of the women sweeping came up to us and said, are you guys from this movie or are you waiting for the next movie? Like they thought we got into the movie early. Like we're waiting for the next one. I'm like, no, we're here for this movie. We're, watching the credits. And she's like, oh, okay. So, obviously my grandchildren were very embarrassed by that whole thing. It could have been a lot more embarrassing if I was by myself. But anyhow, the payoff was, so the movie ends, like the final credits end, the music is still playing, and then there's like a very long, like ending Disney theme where like where they show like the castle and like you're flying above it and they show the Disney family crest and the stars go over, and it's like a very long Disney theme, and that ends, and then it goes to a final Pixar like end theme, and what they have is and this made it all the worthwhile. Normally, you have the lamp jumping on the eye in
Right.
Pixar. What they had was what was the motorcycle guy's name?
Kaboom.
Duke Kaboom.
Duke Kaboom.
Duke Kaboom was on his motorcycle, jumping up and down and crushing the eye, and he's like making all sorts of noise and shouting out and woo-hoos and all that stuff. And what was the
One of the combat cars.
one of the combat car that didn't get the high five in the movie because I think he high fived two of them.
I thought that was funny, that scene.
That combat car, the one combat car that didn't get the high five is coming out trying to get his high five. And then I literally got up and I said, and that's why you wait to the end. And the only people there were my 3 grandchildren, and they saw it. And they were like, okay.
You know who
That was
voiced
it.
Duke Kaboom?
You know what? I had no idea until we read the credits, and it
Yeah.
was Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
You know, it was very interesting.
He's been on fire lately.
You know, and not for nothing. You know, a good animated makes it hard to know who voiced the characters, because what you don't want is animated characters that are just caricatures of the real person voicing them.
Okay.
You know, originally, voice actors. Voice actors are for animated films and cartoons back in the day used to be no-name people. There was actually a whole, industry of people that did voices for cartoons, and they were almost never celebrities. And then all of a sudden, somebody got the idea of having like a famous person voice it, and that just took off and kind of ruined it for all those people, because now most films are actually voiced by celebrities. But the problem is like, if you're putting all of your bank in the celebrity's voice and not really, putting it to the animation, it almost becomes like, well, you're not, like, I didn't feel I was watching Keanu Reeves
Oh no.
in Toy Story
No,
4.
not at all.
He was just lending his voice ability to create this
Yeah.
character of
I mean,
Duke Kaboom.
and if you hear it enough, you can know. I mean, I went to the movie and I knew it was him,
Yeah.
but I bet you people that don't know might not recognize
Yeah.
his voice.
So
right
we
away.
sat there reading through the cast just to see all the names, and we saw now I'm pretty sure Don Rickles was
He
Mr.
passed-
Potato Head,
Yeah,
but he
was.
died like in 2017.
Yeah, no, he passed
So
away.
how did they even get his voice?
Was he? He was listed as.
I
Mr.
think he
Pinhead?
was.
Then I think what they ended up
Maybe
using
they-
was probably uncut
Maybe they did
footage.
sound loops.
I think they did like cut footage from the other movies, and then they put that into this.
Okay.
Because even Slinky is different. Slinky was not Larry the Cable Guy.
John Ratzenberger?
No. Slinky was for this movie here. Oh, I forget the guy's name. Oh, he's a character actor in other films, but I think he took over for someone also.
Now Annie Potts played one of the
Played,
voices.
yeah, he played Bo Peep, and that's original. That's going all the way back to the first 2 films.
And I didn't know where these characters were, but apparently Carol Burnett and Betty White voiced 2 characters in this movie.
Didn't Betty White wasn't the store owner, the antique store owner?
Maybe I don't know. I
forget.
I couldn't. When I saw. I mean, I recognized Carol Burnett and Betty White, but the characters that they played, the name that they gave of those 2 characters, I couldn't connect with who they were in the movie.
Okay.
So I want to this is actually a movie I definitely want to see again. I might not see it in the theater, but I definitely want to see this movie again, and I want to see who all the different characters are, because I love, I think Carol Burnett and Betty White are classic.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Classic actresses with a lot of personality, and I think their voices can really lend well to a movie. So I'm actually really curious to see who it may very well have been the woman who won.
I feel like it was the antique store owner, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
But overall, I love this film. I thought this was great. This was probably. I still don't think anything will beat the first film for me, only because I remember just when I first saw that, like how much I really enjoyed the film. I would put Toy Story 4 probably as my second favorite Toy Story film.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with this film. I'm going to say I was almost floored. Like, it floored me. Like, I couldn't believe how much I was enjoying it, because I was enjoying it so much I wasn't even aware that it was totally opposite of my expectations.
Yeah.
At some point, I was just like, wow. I was just like, wow, this is a really good film.
I think this is another film where basically the trailer just did not do the film justice.
It does not do the film justice at all.
And I'm really trying to remember what that teaser trailer and then the first full trailer was. Were they just holding back to not give much away? Because I do feel in today's market, and what happens is that these trailers are way too long. They're all at least 2 minutes to 2.5 minutes, and they give way too much of the story away. I liked it back in the day where things were a little bit more mysterious, and the trailers were just to give you a little piece of what the movie was, and not give the whole story away. I kind of felt this way because I mean the only thing I knew about this film is they had a character named Forky, and there was something about a carnival, and that Bo Peep was coming back, and that was essentially what I knew going into this, and then there was so much more to this movie, and it just had such an emotional weight throughout, because I'm someone who doesn't like to see like my favorite characters change, and Woody goes through this huge change in this movie. At the end of the movie, and we didn't even discuss this, at the end of the movie, Woody gives up his voice box. He gives up his mechanical box to Gabby so that she can be loved by another toy, because he gets it. She relates to him on a way at the very end where he gets it.
And he's had those relationships in the past, and she's never had that.
And so he voluntarily gives up his voice box for her, and you see Woody get stitched up, and he doesn't have his pull string anymore. Like, that's all gone. And I'm like, oh, like it's almost like a piece of him is missing, but he's okay with it. He's come to terms with that, and it's just such a growing moment for him, for his character. I thought that was really something that they did. Just a huge chance and risk that they took, and I think it paid off. I think it really did such wonders for his character to push him forward.
I think this movie was very enjoyable on every level. I enjoyed it as an adult, and as an adult who never grew up. It's probably still a kid inside, but I almost feel like it would have been a shame if most kids who went to see this movie probably went with an adult. I'm thinking, and I think it would be a shame if you were an adult who took your kid or grandkid or niece or nephew, whatever, or your friends with sons or whatever, and went to this movie just as a chaperone, and didn't get in with his cell phone. Yeah, she's totally checked out of the film, in my opinion. If you were a chaperone and all you did was just sit back and just coast, you missed out on a really good movie that I sat through this movie and I absolutely loved it, and I went, I was invested in it. I put the time in, I put the mental capacity into it. I was paying attention, I was following the story, and I was getting into the story, and it just took me away. Side note, one thing we didn't bring up at all is I really liked the characters of the two plush characters from the
they were like one of the game
the games.
Yeah,
they were almost
so and they were attached, right? Aren't they tethered together?
They might be tethered together.
Yeah, so there's these two characters.
I don't know if they were delinquents, but they're they're almost like street smart. You know?
And it was funny because these two guys, so basically Buzz gets captured and he gets put into one of these games as a prize. And it's one of those at the carnival they've got those games that you've got to do something in order to win a prize, right? So these two characters that are tethered together, these two plush animals, are zip tied to the top, and they're looking at Buzz and hey, do you think you're going? You think you're going to be the character that's going to be, you're going to be the next kid's toy? No, we've been here. You know how long we've been here? We've been waiting this long? No, we're going to be the ones. We get picked, not you. And like they just, and all Buzz wants to do is just get the heck out of there.
Yeah, they start kicking him and swinging. The bigger one is swinging the little one. And he's trying to kick him in the head.
Oh man,
they actually had a lot of really funny scenes.
They really did.
You know, and their plan is always their plan to get something done is always like it's called a plush attack, plush rush,
plush rush,
and it's basically the two of them just like attacking whoever, and they never actually do it. They just it's always like it's all in their head. It's like this is our plan, and then they show, and it's really funny. Those two characters are actually really funny.
Yeah, no, that was pretty good. I mean, there was a lot of new characters in this film, and I feel like they all worked.
Yeah. You know what? And they kept a lot of the old characters again.
Yeah.
But they kept them in the background, which I think was good because I think it would have been played out. Like we've seen those characters so many times. You don't need to get rid of them, but most of those movies all took place. They took place in these confined spaces where all the same characters were always together.
Well, I think too,
for the whole film.
I think you couldn't have another toy go lost and then they all go to hell for this one toy.
Yeah, it's crazy because then it would have been a completely different dynamic. Having the dinosaur and Mr. Potato Head and all these other doing the same type of dynamic that they've already seen.
Yep.
Now basically they were in the background, still there for a couple of their lines here and there.
Yeah.
But the story was really taking place outside of wherever they were, and it was outside of wherever they were for a long time. I actually lost track of the time of that movie, but I think it was like longer than I expected.
The movie, the total time I think was like an hour. I want to say like in 40.
Yeah, that sounds about right. An hour and 40 minutes, and it. I think the time flew.
No, I think it went really fast. I think once we hit those final scenes, I'm like, wait a minute, we're already here. Like this is it, and it was. And I was like, wow. So that went a lot faster than I thought. But
I would definitely say it's my favorite Pixar film.
I'd put it up there. It's not like I said. I still think for me, Toy Story is still my favorite. I mean, I still have Toy Story, and I would really have to weigh it up against The Incredibles.
Yeah, you know what? I think I really give this movie 4 stars. I think I gave Inside Out 4 stars as well. I give Inside Out 4 stars. I think Toy Story 4 and Inside Out are my 2 favorite Pixars, and I think they're 2 of the best.
That one's great just because it deals with just emotions and kids and it.
Yeah, the story that it tackles.
Yeah.
Is very not easy to do, and I think they did that very well. But I mean, at the end of the day, you always have to give the proper respect to the original Toy Story. It's just it's the first one. It was the groundbreaker.
It laid the groundwork for everything else.
It was the success of that ensured Pixar would continue.
Well, I think that's it. If Toy Story wasn't successful, there might not be a Pixar today.
Yeah.
It's because of how successful that first movie was. And the second film, only a few years later, that really helped to ensure Pixar and make it a staple.
Well, I mean, and just to give you a parallel, that sometimes, one movie can make or break, the whole scenario. I forget what company it was, but whatever company put out Anastasia back in the late 90s, that was it was the new animation department for that particular studio, and this was their flagship movie. And I thought that movie was fantastic. It was even nominated for at least 1 Academy Award, if not 2. Probably for music and all that.
Right.
But it was. I thought that movie was fantastic, but it didn't do that well at the box office, and I think it might have been. I think it was. I think Don Bluth was involved in that. I think it was a Don Bluth film. I'm not 100% sure, but basically, whatever they were trying to accomplish, they didn't make another movie. They were. I mean, I think they were trying to rival Disney. They were trying to rival Disney. They wanted to get an animation department out there, an animation studio, to be on par with Disney and provide them some real competition. And one of the things Disney did during the original release of Anastasia, was they took out full page ads for re-release of The Little Mermaid at the same exact time, just to, you know, nobody messes with Disney, you know.
Wow.
But Disney pulls out all the stuff.
Well, Disney went and bought Pixar. They bought Pixar.
Oh, Pixar was its own thing.
Pixar was its own thing, but like I think like Disney, I'm guessing Disney might have just like released it through them. Like they might have just been like the releasing studio, even though like Pixar put everything together. But Disney bought out Pixar.
Oh wow, I don't know that I knew that. I thought Pixar was Disney all the whole time.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, you know, a successful movie can ensure the continuation of the thought process, and an unsuccessful one can shut it down. You know, and I was actually very upset when I heard that whatever they were doing, the people behind Anastasia did not do another film, because I thought it was really good.
So if you haven't seen Toy Story 4 and you're thinking about it, you're on the fence, go see it. Bring someone with you. It doesn't have to be a young kid. Just go see that movie.
See it, without a doubt.
Yeah, I think it's very enjoyable. It's a great story.
One of the most enjoyable films I've seen in years. Like,
I think it's definitely one of the most...
brand new theatrical release?
Definitely one of the most enjoyable for this year. Hands down.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I gave a movie 4 stars in a theatrical release. It's probably been quite a while. But this one, I think I do. I give this movie 4 stars. Really enjoyable.
So guys, I think with that, we're going to sign off for the night.
Yeah.
We hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please don't forget, like, share, subscribe, and comment on these videos. We hope you guys enjoy. We're going to keep turning out more content. I hope you guys like it. All right?
Yep.
Thank you guys so much.
Go to the movies.
Go to the movies, guys. Take care.